Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 690 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Friday, July 11th, 2025, and it is a lovely day here at the Beaver Lodge. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? And with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Got an interesting show for you today. Couple of big news items, and then if we have time, just a collection, potpourri, if you will, of updates and little stories, things that have been going on. But before we get into it, Mr. Grizzly, how is your mental health today, sir?
100% better than yesterday.
Yes.
Yesterday I slept in till 9 and then took Lola out for a walk and then came back and made us some breakfast and then proceeded to fall into a state of depression and suffered from a terrible migraine and just didn't get off the couch until I took Lola out again. It was not a good day. That happens sometimes. And here I thought, after all that sleep, I'd feel good, but I didn't. Last night, fortunately, I went to bed at a regular hour and slept right through till my alarm went off, which is not normal for me. Normally, I'm up 3 or 4 times. I slept right through till the 6 a.m. alarm, and I'm like, well, I won't say I feel rested, but I don't feel as tired as I normally do. So let's go with that.
Okay.
Well, the vivid dreams take a lot out of the energy out of me in the middle of the night. Even if I don't wake up, I still wake up exhausted. So
right. Yeah. Indeed. I had a weird day yesterday. Started off very well, had a great show, and then bad news after bad news after bad news type thing. Not again, first world problems. But went to see the physiotherapist and kind of made it clear that Romania was pretty much out of the question.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah, the mountains are definitely not happening, and we walk a lot when we go on trips. Walk through neighborhoods and whatnot, and so we do easily about 10 kilometers a day, and it's like, yeah, you will not be able to keep up. You won't do damage to your foot, but you'll be in so much pain that after a day or two, you're just going to be sitting at home while everybody else is going out and doing stuff. So I want to meet people, but I can't also just stay in their house 24/7. Right?
Yeah.
You got to leave sometime during the day so that they can, live their lives a bit. So yeah, it's not looking good. And then I was moving around some investments because I was trying to take some stuff that was outside of my tax-free savings account and put it into my tax-free savings account. And I was told that I would be able to do certain things. And then when I got there, I was told, no, you won't be able to do that. And it's like,
Wait a
okay,
minute.
we've just moved all my funds from one institution to another.
Oh, okay. So you have two TFSAs.
No, I had something outside of TFSA. Like I'd been
Oh,
investing since I was, in my mid-20s.
right.
Right? And so before there were TFSAs, so I was told that I could transfer that from to the institution where I had my TFSA, but I had to transfer in kind
Mhm.
from a non-registered account to non-registered account. And once all the funds were in the same institution, that I would then be able to transfer them from the non-registered account to the registered account without having to sell them first.
Okay.
So that the capital gains that have been accumulated up until now, I wouldn't get dinged for. Well, turns out that was not true.
Okay.
So, but now my money is in the other institution and there are transfer fees and and it's just like, I would have just left them because I can trade within the funds at the institution, which I bought them for free. But now there's $10, right? So I'm per trade. And I'm thinking, like, you motherfucker. Oh. It's like,
Mhm.
so that again, not devastating. Like I said, then we came to some kind of agreement, but I was like an hour and a half on the phone with them to try to come up to some type of arrangement that wouldn't, make it hurt.
Right.
Because if I wanted to do the move, I would have to sell everything that I've been saving since I was in my mid-20s all in 1 year, which would really just throw me into another tax bracket, right?
Well, I mean,
And like,
current max TFSA contribution, for you, because you were born before 1991, correct?
right, right, yes.
It's, 102,000 is the max,
Thank you.
contribution.
Exactly, and I have not used up all my room because I opened it up the first year it was possible,
Yeah, me too.
knowing I wouldn't be using up all the room, and
I
that
think
and one day that was
3%.
the plan.
Is it
Pardon?
3% or 5% of Canadians have used up all the room in their
Yeah,
TFSAs?
only like 3 or 5%. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, like, listen, in this day and age, who has an extra $6,000,
Well, I mean, and
right?
and it's 7,000 this
It's
year.
7 now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And Pierre Poilievre was, "We're gonna increase that amount." I'm like, "For, like, 3 to 4% of the population?"
exactly.
So the rich will get richer and the rest of us still suffer.
Exactly.
Until you can do something about the high cost of living, which there's very little a politician can actually do. Because remember, who controls rents? Provincial.
Mhm,
And unless you nationalize the grocery chains, which isn't gonna happen, you're not lowering food prices
mhm,
unless you start subsidizing us.
right.
And who keeps voting against, expanding unionization and voting against $10 a day daycare and school food programs and raising the minimum wage and doing anything that will benefit the marginalized and the working class of this country? Who always votes against that?
Could it be I don't know, maybe potential conservatives?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yes, okay,
Specifically, Pierre Poilievre.
yes. So, again, right? Not devastating news, but like this, but it's like, another layer. And the hits just kept coming
Mhm.
yesterday. At one point, it's just uh, you get depleted that now like really stupid things just become one more thing on the list. So like we went out for dinner last night, we went out for sushi. And of course, because of my allergies, I need a special soy sauce.
Right.
So I have 2 bottles of the special soya sauce in the fridge, but for some reason, both of them are like near the bottom when I take them out. And I'm thinking like, okay, we're going to an all you can eat sushi place, and I don't have enough soya sauce for all you can eat. I just like, and I'm like, you know, it was a great meal and all that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
I'm just like sitting there and it's like, oh my God, it's like I can't go to Romania like this. And this also means because the problem with the physiotherapist said is that uh, because both feet are still different, um, the trouble I can get into is developing a new gait when I walk. So right now I have to focus on uh, not making the foot that I hurt match my good foot when I walk, but making my good foot match the foot that I hurt when I walk. So not to take bigger steps with that one, because if you do that for 2, 3 weeks, then it imprints in your brain. When your foot gets better, then you're walking with a weird gait, and it's like, it's just like, so this means like I was really hoping that at some point I could get on a tennis court for a little bit, like even if it's just like, hitting balls. And it's like,
Right.
that's probably not going to happen until August again. And then if Alex goes, well, Alex is going to go to Romania and going without me, then I'm like alone for another month again. And I've been alone a lot since. Oh God.
Wow.
It's, at one point it's like, it was like a blues song, right? Can't go to Romania. My trades are bad. Don't have enough soy sauce. And I'll be alone for another month. Oh no, I got the blues. I got the beaver blues. It's just, so yeah, I was sad most of the day yesterday, and it got off to such a great start because, and I have to say that I've been sad more since I broke my foot because,
Right.
I'm not living life and life's go happening without me in certain ways. I've been more sad in the last 3 months than I've been in the last 3 years total. So it's just like, I'm so done with this. I want to go back to regularly scheduled beaver. Just like I'm my usual happy, bouncy self. I don't like this. It's like I know here in my head, right, that it's irrational and like this, but I also know like I it's not wrong to be sad about all of this stuff, right? But there's half of me going, yeah, it's legit that you're sad. You've got stuff to be sad about. And the other half of me is like, girl, get over yourself. Because you don't, I do not like this sadness. So just don't be sad. Find a
Yes.
way to not be sad. But there's just so much.
So Barney, was it Barney Stinson? Barney from How I Met Your Mother. I can't remember what was his name. Barney. He says, "When I'm sad, I stop being sad and be awesome instead." True story.
Yeah. I mean,
I
like I
wish
said,
it were that easy.
and like I said, I try to be fabulous instead, but every now and then it's just like, yeah, would you like some? Yeah. What do you want to eat? I don't care. You choose.
Uh,
Sort of like, I sorry, I'm just checking out of life today. Yeah.
yeah, I understand that. I do. I get those days, and that was yesterday for me. Just
Yeah.
checked right out completely. This morning I woke up and I'm looking at my email. I'm like, okay, I've got to go in and delete more auto emails that I get. I just
Yes.
unsubscribed because I had 100 emails to delete this morning.
I know.
100. Like, come on, this is getting absurd.
I know.
If I don't check my email for one day, 100 emails.
Oh, yeah.
Like, come on, man.
There's a lot. All right, kids and cubs, let's get into it. Oh boy, look, I hate having to start with this guy because, well, as far as I'm concerned, the least we talk about him, the better. But,
Yeah.
well, some people just will not be ignored.
Well, I mean, this from the Star Tribune. Sack, I guess, is the name of the cartoonist. It's Trump's back to us, and he's got a clipboard under his right arm that says cabinet, and everything's been checked off, and he has a red marker. He says, that concludes our roll call. Now let's take turns talking about me, with a bunch of lipstick marks on his buttocks.
Yes, and everybody around the table seems to have smudged lipstick.
Yes.
Oh, I actually forgot what I originally wanted to start with, but that's okay. We'll get back to that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to throw you off track.
No. I did it myself.
Oh, okay.
I wanted the first thing I wanted to talk about today because we missed it was Nunavut Day.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that happened on the 9th. Yeah, I immediately see he did steal my attention there for a second. But yes, on the 9th was Nunavut Day, and there's a couple of little interesting stories about it. This is from Nunatsiaq News, but it seems, and of course, down south over here, we didn't hear much of that. But about 30 years ago, when they were deciding to choose the capital of what would become Nunavut, it seems that there was uh, a bit of a competition
Mhm.
going on. So this is by Artie Sarkisian. He says, for all 25 years of Nunavut's existence, Iqaluit has been its uncontested capital. But 30 years ago, the question of which community should be the capital of the future territory was anything but uncontested. So on Nunavut Day, when Nunavummiut celebrate Kikik, okay, I have to do this right, Kikiktaluk, Kivalik, and Kitikmeot residents coming together to create Canada's newest member of Confederation, here is the story of a vote that nearly broke them apart. Quote, even before the territory became known, people started debating, says Iqaluit Mayor Solomon Awa, who supported the idea of Iqaluit becoming the territory's capital. The debate intensified with the signing of the Nunavut Agreement on July 9, 1993. The land claims agreement between Inuit and the federal government started the ball rolling for the eventual creation of a new territory to be carved from the boundaries of the Northwest Territories. The newly outlined jurisdiction did need a capital. Frontrunners included Iqaluit, Rankin Inlet, and Cambridge Bay. Soon, 3 lobby groups formed, each campaigning for each of the regional centers. Being the capital brings all sorts of benefits, more jobs and infrastructure, says Rankin Inlet Mayor Harry Totongi, who supported the Rankin Inlet lobby. They argued Rankin Inlet would work for all Nunavummiut because it's centrally located. But Iqaluit, already the region's largest community with roughly 4,400 people, responded that geography wasn't a valid argument. Baker Lake is the geographic center of Canada, but it does not have the transportation links and infrastructure to be Canada's capital, Iqaluit campaign organizers wrote in an article published in Nunatsiaq News on December 1st, 1995. Also, Rankin Inlet's notoriously unpredictable weather didn't play in its favor. Weather is the boss, Awa said, adding that if the debate were held today, weather might play a smaller role due to the modern communication technologies. As for Cambridge Bay, they mostly feared the prospect of Iqaluit as capital because it was too far from their region, Awa said. In 1994, as voting day approached, Pat Lyle, one of the leaders of the Cambridge Bay Group, told Nunatsiaq News the community was willing to drop out and support Rankin Inlet in exchange for more benefits for the Kitikmeot region. He later denied that was the strategy, but in November, a month before the scheduled vote, Cambridge Bay Hamlet Council voted to not be listed on the ballot. So it became a two-way race between Iqaluit and Rankin Inlet to be determined at the polls by all Nunavummiut of voting age on December 11, 1995. Well, almost. The final decision would still be made in Ottawa. Ron Irwin, the Minister of Indian Affairs and Northern Development at the time, committed to take the vote result forward to Cabinet. Chief Polling Officer David Hamilton told Nunatsiaq News before the vote. But he added, quote, they can take the recommendation, change it, throw it out, agree to it, or whatever. Nevertheless, people voted. Unexpectedly for both sides, results weren't even close. Iqaluit won with about 60%, taking 5,869 of the 9,745 total votes cast, nearly 2,000 more than Rankin Inlet received. The federal cabinet accepted the people's vote on Iqaluit, officially became the capital later in December. Nunavut MLAs, still based in Yellowknife at the time, started working to bridge any hard feelings caused by the race, with some hinting the existence of the new territory could be at risk. Quote, we have to step forward and come together to make sure that Nunavut is actually in effect on April 1st, 1999, and to reach our hands out. To people all across the new territory, Iqaluit MLA Ed Pico said after the vote. Natilik Miot MLA John Ningark, who chaired the Nunavut caucus in the Northwest Territories Legislative Assembly, said Inuit have survived in the Arctic for thousands of years because they know how to work together. Now, nearly 30 years after the vote, both sides in the capital race have mostly moved on, Awa said. We agree to disagree, he said. Totongi said he's happy Rankin Inlet isn't the capital because that comes with its own baggage. The hamlet would have had to become much larger with a lot of out-of-town government workers moving in. Quote, you kind of lose the sense of community and the sense of control. So yeah, just a little bit of Nunavut history, because I had no idea that the battle for the capital if you would like to call it,
Mhm.
was so intense. So there you go. And now there was more news from Nunavut in that we have yet another premier who is stepping down. Guess wanting to do 4 years of Trump is really getting to people.
I'm sure it is, actually. I'm sure people are just going, I can't deal with this anymore. I was speaking to somebody recently who said, I can't give you much in the way of details, but other than the fact that every time Trump opens his mouth and says something, everybody's like, "Ah, damn it, we have to address this." So
Exactly.
it's like, okay, drop everything you're doing. We need to have a press release at 3 p.m. It's like, can we wait till 4? Because we're going to have to work on this because it's changing by the minute. And this is
Exactly.
what is happening right now. So I'm sure people are just getting burned out. I've
Mm,
no doubt people are just, I can't do this anymore.
I
And who
know.
blames them?
I know. So we had the premier of PEI, the premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, the premier of Yukon, and now Nunavut. Did I miss one?
Uh,
I think. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think I got them all. But yes, the premier of Nunavut, PJ Agiakuk, says he will not seek re-election when his term comes to a close in the fall. Agiaguk wrote on Facebook Tuesday morning that he is, quote, humbled every day by the trust Nunavummiut placed in him and is, quote, deeply proud of what we've achieved together. Akiaguk, who represents the riding of Iqaluit Nyakungu, wrote that he decided not to seek re-election so that he can spend more time with his family. Quote, the time that public life often demands we set aside, he wrote. He highlighted some of the accomplishments that stood out over his term, including the Devolution Agreement, which was a very, very big deal, the National Early Childhood Education Agreement, and the launch of Nunavut 3000, a plan to build 3,000 homes across the country. And just for those who are wondering, the Devolution Agreement is this allowed um, the government of Canada was having the final say over a long list of things that were happening in Nunavut. And now, with the devolution agreement, the authority for those decisions had been placed back in the hands of people in Nunavut itself. So it gave Nunavut control over its land and resources. So it was a big deal in
mhm.
terms of that. And so PJ Agiaguk was there when that was happening. He also highlighted the trying times they have faced in the past few years, including COVID-19 pandemic and the water crisis. Quote, to the municipal leaders and frontline workers who showed resilience and leadership during those moments, your efforts were the backbone of our response. Agiagak thanked his family and friends for supporting him over his term. He grew up in Grise Fjord and was voted as premier by his fellow MLAs in 2021 as part of the territory's consensus government. Again, up north, people are elected, and then around the table, they discuss amongst themselves and they choose the premier among themselves. And
Right.
there are no parties. He won the riding of Iqaluit Nyakungu in 2021 with 84% of the vote, according to his profile. He was previously the president of Kikitani Inuit Association. He survived a non-confidence vote in the Legislative Assembly in November 2024, with 10 MLAs voting to keep him as premier and another 8 voting to remove him. And the next Nunavut election will be held on October 27th. So I'm not sure if there's, somebody's probably going to be named an interim until then. And I don't know who that is yet. But yes, there will be a territorial election on October 27th. There you go. That was sort of the little interesting tidbits that we have before we get into the main stuff. And now we need to get into the main stuff. So, kits and cubs, once again, it unhinged its jaw. The orange rattlesnake south of us wasn't getting enough attention because, remember, in April, he was claiming that countries all over the world were calling him and kissing his ass. And then we got,
Literally said that.
yes, and then July 4th was about to come. And he said, well, those 90 days in 90 days, we'll push that back to around July 8th and 9th. And then July and 8th and 9th came back and says, well, we'll push that back till August 1st. Because and then we saw another interview where U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, I think, probably let slip that countries weren't calling.
Mm. Yeah.
So it seems that everybody looked at that long list of tariffs that he put out on Liberation Day, and then he scaled them back for a bit. And then, you got this amount of time to make a deal with me. And everybody went, and then July 8th and 9th came along and it says, well, here we go. I'm sending you letters saying how much you're going to have to pay. But if you still want to kiss my ass between now and August 1st, we can still talk. And the world went, so once again, Trump did what he usually does when he's thirsty for attention. He turns to his favorite punching bag. That would be us, because I think he's still thinking that that whole, oh my God, if he's willing to do that to Canada, what's he going to do to us? We should fall in line thing. I think he still thinks that that's working.
Well, I'm reading his letter here, and it's just so much absurdity.
I know, right? So yesterday he decided to release this. Mr. Grizzly, since you have the letter, would you?
Dear Mr. Prime Minister, it is a great honor for me to send you this letter in that it demonstrates the strength and commitment of our trading relationship. Sorry, just give me a sec here.
You can't do it with a straight face, can you?
It's not easy. It's not easy.
It's his great honor to punch us in the face.
Just put my glasses on here. Commitment of our trading relationship. And the fact that the United States of America has agreed to continue working with Canada, despite Canada having financially retaliated against the United States. As you will recall, the United States imposed tariffs on Canada to deal with our nation's fentanyl crisis, which is caused in part by Canada's failure to stop the drugs from pouring into our country. Instead of working with the United States, Canada retaliated with its own tariffs. Starting August 1st, 2025, we will charge Canada a tariff of 35% on Canadian products sent into the United States, separate from all sectoral tariffs. Goods transshipped to evade this higher tariff will be subject to that higher tariff. As you are aware, there will be no tariff if Canada or companies within your country decide to build or manufacture product within the United States. And in fact, we will do everything possible to get approvals quickly, professionally, and routinely. In other words, a matter of weeks. If for any reason you decide to raise your tariffs, then whatever the number you choose to raise them by will be added on to the 35% that we charge. Also, I must mention that the flow of fentanyl is hardly the only challenge we have with Canada, which has many tariff and non-tariff policies and trade barriers, which cause unsustainable trade deficits against the United States. Canada charges extraordinary tariffs to our dairy farmers, up to 400%. And that is even assuming our dairy farmers even have access to sell their products to the people of Canada. The trade deficit is a major threat to our economy and indeed our national security. If Canada works with me to stop the flow of fentanyl, we will perhaps consider an adjustment to this letter. These tariffs may be modified upward or downward, depending on our relationship with your country. You will never be disappointed with the United States of America. Thank you for your attention to this matter. With best wishes, I am sincerely Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America.
Okay. You did relatively well for that, Mr.
It was very difficult not to.
Oh my God. Okay. This
What a
guy.
freaking idiot.
I know. I mean, and it's like, again, right? The opposite of love isn't hate, right? It's utter indifference. And with this type of guy, when he puts out this type of letter, right? He's like expecting the whole world to bow. And we're laughing as we're reading it.
Yes.
Right. The news comes out. It's like, oh God, her again. It's just like, let's go through some of these things. It's a great honor for me to send you this letter. It's a great honor for me to punch you in the face. Basically, here. It demonstrates the strength and commitment of our trading relationship. It sure does. We don't have one.
You tore up the trade agreement that you signed just 6 years ago, right?
Yes. So it demonstrates the great strength, commitment, and the fact that the United States of America agreed to continue working with Canada, despite Canada having financially retaliated against the United States. So this is another, why don't you just lie back and take it letter?
Basically.
It's like, we punched you first. How dare you punch us back?
That's what
I'm
it
the
is.
only one who's allowed to punch.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Why are you resisting? Just let me climb up on top of you.
And
Just
then
let me
he
do
goes
what I
on.
want.
Then he goes up against the 400% tariffs, which, again,
I
we've never charged that,
I
number
know.
one.
But
Number two, he signed off on that deal.
yep. But we will get there. We will get there. As America has agreed to continue working with Canada. Yeah, because we don't have anything you need. Right? But you've agreed to keep on working with us.
Yeah.
Okay. As you will
We don't
recall,
have
United
anything. We
as
don't
you
need anything from Canada.
No. But
But we're gonna put
we just want all of you, though.
yeah, we're gonna annex you, but we don't need anything from you. We're just going to take you.
Yeah, exactly. Again, right? The civilly adjudicated sexual abuser.
Yes. Yes, and it stood up in court again on
Yes.
another appeal to E. Jean Carroll. She won again.
Yes. I know. I love her. She
He
just decided, don't get mad, get everything.
is legally a convicted rapist.
Yes. Now, again, technically, we can't say rapist because in the state of New York, the way that the law is designed, that only counts as sexual
Battery?
abuse
Okay.
because E. Jean Carroll was not 100% sure with which part of his body
Yes, because
he used to do what he did to her. And then, of course, you'll remember he tried to sue her for defamation because she claimed rape. And then the judge turned around and said, listen, in common parlance, that's what it is.
yes.
You lose. Right?
Yeah.
But that's the technical thing. That's the only reason where we're not allowed technically to use the R word. Technically. Yes. But that's
Common
what it
parlance.
was. That's what it was. So again, he's talking about to deal with our national fentanyl crisis. We know that that's bullshit, but he just can't seem to let that go. And then he's talking about instead of working with the United States, yes, because I distinctly remember us making all those announcements of all those billions of dollars that we were going to spend on the border when people were still thinking, hey, just mollify them on this one and, things will be good. Remember when the conservatives were saying that? Remember when Danielle Smith was validating all his concerns on the border and said, just give him what he wants on the border and then we'll be able to have trade. Those were good times.
Mhm.
Good times. Was never going to happen. Not with this guy.
No.
Okay. There's thirsty for attention and then there's downright parched. Right? This guy's like, attention, attention. Right? And there's nothing sadder than a neglected attention whore. So he's still going on about the fentanyl thing, which is not a thing. He still says we're not working with them. We did. There's even less going in than the fewer than 1% that was at the time he was complaining. Then we retaliated with our own tariffs. Yeah, of course we did. Then starting August 1st, it's going to be charged a tariff of 35% on all these goods. And then there's all these like exceptions separate from sectoral tariffs, whatnot. It's just a jumbled mess. What does this actually mean? Nobody really knows. I mean, I'm sure there's some let me put this way. Not nobody really knows. We've got the best trade negotiators in the world. They're going to be able to figure this out, what this actually means. But for the average person sitting at home, like this is like the 27th threat of terrorists or whatever. And it's like, which ones are on, which ones are off? What does this mean really? The average person doesn't know anymore. Even I'm following this stuff and I can't figure it out anymore.
Keep up. And what every time he does this, the stock market reacts. Although this time the stock market kind of flipped him the bird. Like, oh, he's going to chicken out in a day or two anyway, so don't worry about it. That's kind of the reaction the stock market just had. I was watching something earlier from MSNBC about that, and they said the stock market basically flipped him off because they're sick of this. They know he's going to chicken out in a few days. They know he'll back down, so that the stock market didn't even blip this time.
Yeah, except for well, that even got better since I looked about half an hour ago.
Mhm.
Pre-market trading. When I'm looking at what's going on Asia Pacific right now, it's there's a couple of places that are down, but it's an up day for a lot of places. In Europe overall, it seems to be a down day because the EU is probably thinking, okay, we're next. But
Mhm.
the lowest is Italy, down 1.3%. It's not like there's a 2, 3, 4% shift. And for the Americas, the Dow, when I looked earlier, was projected to open about 345 points down. Now it's 243 points down. So, because all these tariffs, everybody knows, except Donald Trump, it appears, that Americans will be paying them.
Yeah, he is completely convinced that it's not Americans that pay them.
Yes.
When everybody has told him and every American that thinks tariffs are good that you pay for it, your costs go up. And I've recently read how, a lot of people say, well, I'm going to the States, things are cheaper with a Canadian dollar. No, it's not.
No,
And a
no.
matter of fact, in a lot of restaurants and fast food places, the dollar value is the same. So, say $5.99 for a burger at Mickey D's is $5.99 for a burger in the U.S., but you're paying $1.35 more per dollar because of
Mhm.
the exchange rate.
Right.
So you're actually losing money.
Exactly. And then I'm sure in global trade, as we were talking about the other day, that the value of the US dollar has dropped over 10% over the last 6 months. The value of the Canadian
Yes.
dollar has increased 5%. I'm sure there's some dynamics with that are far too complex for me to think of on the fly. That affects how far our dollars go. The gold price, which had been slightly retreating over the past 30 days. Well, shooting back up on that news. People running to the safety of gold. No, not shooting up back, not just about 1% up right now. But, it was down close to 3% over the last 30 days, maybe 2.5%. And, it's
Mhm.
gaining about 1% of that back today just on that news. Um, so, there is a little bit of market reaction, but not as much as you would expect for someone, coming down from on high the mountain and unilaterally determining that this is what it's going to be. And, and sending letters to all over the place. I mean, he was doing the same thing. I think there's a letter that went to Brazil, like that, where he's like threatening like 50% on them or something of the sort. It's just really weird. So
Mhm.
anyway, let's continue analyzing this thing here. So he's got all those tariffs, whatnot, and then he's going, and then of course the thing he probably really wants, because he never actually says his end game, but here, as you are aware, there will be no tariff if Canada or companies within your country decide to build or manufacture product within the United States. So just give up your manufacturing, let it relocate over here, give up the jobs, relocate over here, and then you'll have no tariffs, but you'll also have nothing to sell. That doesn't sound like a good deal. I'm not an expert on international trade, but that sounds like a sucky deal,
Mhm.
my friend. Avoid the tariffs by not manufacturing anything in your country ever again.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Fortunately,
That's not good for us.
yes. Fortunately, it's like we cannot move the copper mines and the steel.
Yeah. So
Right.
here's what we'll do instead. To avoid the tariffs, we'll just trade with other countries.
Yes, and, this would probably be a good time to, again, probably not in one way, right? Because there's still the 21st date, right?
Mhm.
And right now, we are only the what? The 11th? That's a lifetime in Trump world.
Oh
That's
God,
time
yeah.
for him to double eat himself on tacos before then.
I mean, let's get realistic. This guy'll change his mind 100 times between now and then. That's 10 days.
Exactly. So there's a lot of people that are running around with their hair on fire at this point. It's like, listen, we've got a date for the 21st. Let's
Yeah,
just see what happens
we'll
before
see what
then, right?
happens.
There's no point in us jumping and losing our minds now because he can change his mind, I guess. And then there's a lot of people in the states that are probably gonna, the market's gonna do what the market's going to do, and then he's gonna see how that works for him, and then right.
Yeah.
So, but basically, if you agree to surrender all your manufacturing, we will do everything possible to get approvals quickly, professionally, and routinely. In other words, in a matter of weeks. Yeah, I'm sure if we decided, hey, you know what, we're just going to give up all our auto plants and relocate them down there, that you would surely make that happen in a
Yeah.
couple of weeks because you're so desperate for a win right now.
He just wants to put Canadians out of work, and he doesn't give a shit how he does it.
Well, again, as the Prime Minister said, right, he wants to break us so that he can own us.
Yeah, and it's not going to happen.
Now,
It's not going to happen. Simple as that.
say, now, when I tried to climb up all on top of you, and you decided, and then to punch you in the face, and then you resisted by punching back, and I didn't like that, so I'm letting you know I didn't like that, because I'm saying here, if for any reason, you decided to raise your tariffs, then whatever the number you choose to raise them by, we will add on to the 35% that we charge. So
Mhm.
let me climb all over you. Just lie back and take it. And don't you effing fucking try to resist, because
And if you think he's not actually like that, here is a quote from him from the 90s. This is his words directly. I remember seeing this interview.
Mhm.
His words directly. I'll tell you the funniest thing. I'll go backstage before a Miss Teen USA show, and everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything, and no men are anywhere, and I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. You know, I'm inspecting. The girls between 14 and 16 are standing there with no clothes on, and you see these incredible looking women. They're teens, and so I sort of get away with things like that.
Mm.
This man is a disgusting human being.
Mhm. Then he goes, he mentions fentanyl again, so that's not the only challenge we have, and then he goes into the tariffs and non-tariffs and the dairy things, and he here in this letter, we get a sense that Trump might be starting to get it, but he's not all the way there yet, right? Goes, which cause unsustainable trade deficits against the United States. Canada charges extraordinary tariffs to our dairy farmers up to 400%. And that is even assuming our dairy farmers even have access to sell their products. Yes, because you never get the amount in
Never.
that would ever make the 400 trade. You're almost there, Donald. You're almost there.
Well, most Canadians
Almost there.
don't want U.S. milk
No.
or dairy products because they don't have the same regulations we do,
Exactly.
and it's filled with steroids.
Yes. Nobody wants hormone milk. We have homo milk.
Hormonal milk.
Yes. We like homo milk, not hormone milk.
Yes. There's a difference.
Yes, indeed. And then, of course, the trade deficit is a major threat to our economy and indeed our national security! Exclamation point. You know he really means it when he throws in an exclamation point. If Canada works with me to stop the flow of fentanyl, we have. Boo boo kitty. Didn't matter. We will perhaps consider. We will perhaps. Was that a yes or a no? I think that was a possible maybe. Right? From the best little whorehouse in Texas.
We have concepts of a plan.
I like it. It's like, if Canada works with me to stop the flow of fentanyl, as if we haven't, we will perhaps consider an adjustment to this letter. Like, come on, girl. These tariffs may be modified upward or downward depending on our relationship with your country. Yeah, and we reserve the right to do the same thing too. You will never be disappointed with the United States of America. Oh, girl.
We are already.
Can we have some tea here for a second? Oh, girl. You need to look into a mirror, and you really need to take some time to smell yourself. Because whenever you walk into the room, it's literally ode to disappointment. Just a little behind the ears.
Well,
Just,
I mean,
oh my God.
this just came across my feed, and it's directly related to what we're talking about. So I'm going to drop this in here quickly because this is really something. I don't know if you've seen this or not. I'll send you a link to it. But this is from Arnaud Bertrand. He's an entrepreneur somewhere, I don't know, in Europe. He has a large following on the Twitter. I got to read this to you because this is quite something. This might be the most remarkable geopolitical document I've seen come out of a major European institution so far this century. France's parliament has just produced an extraordinary 153-page report that calls for nothing less than a complete strategic realignment of Europe. The document systemically dismantles the EU's current geopolitical positioning, vassalized, in quotes, to the US, in the report's words, as a catastrophic failure that has led to the EU seeing its influence diminish and its interests poorly protected. The report details 50 recommendations from the creation of a common world currency, recommendation number 14, to de-dollarize the global economy, to replacing the EU's strategy in the Indo-Pacific region with a cooperative approach, including China, recommendation number 11. In general, the report's central recommendation is that Europe break free from Atlantic subordination and instead achieve strategic autonomy by partnering with China. This would mark a complete historical reversal for the first time since the colonial era. The historical West choosing equal strategic partnership with a global South nation as an alternative to Western alliance structures. Wow. That is something else.
Mm-hmm.
That is wow.
Yeah. With each one of these moves, he just keeps on pressing on the accelerator for the rest of the world. Go, you know what? Just can we just cut a bitch?
Yeah.
Seriously. People are just tired of this. I guess nobody likes to live with a gun to their head or knife to the throat.
No.
So it's not surprising to me that this is happening. It's not surprising to me that when the United States starts musing about overtaking Greenland because they need the bases that Greenland calls Canada and say, "Hey, would you like to take some mining contracts for some gold and molybdenum?"
We'll do that. We'll do that.
Yeah, can we sign that? Yeah, well, yeah, just no, you don't even have to come to town like this. We can do this over Zoom. Just sign this. Make it happen.
We're good. We're good. Thanks, eh?
Thanks. Thanks.
But I mean, that's massive. You do realize that. I mean, look, it really, really all started back when Zelensky was in the Oval. Trump destabilized the global agreements that have been in place since World War II.
Yep. And it seems that, on that, just a quick little aside, not to get into it, but that decision that came earlier in the week, it was just some defense systems that were already in Poland or whatnot were not going to go to Ukraine. It seems that Pete Hegseth just freelanced and made that decision on his own and didn't really tell Trump that that was it. That's why we got the reversal on that a couple of days ago.
Oopsie.
Oops. Yeah. And of course, Trump is apparently mad at Putin again. Putin gives us a lot of bullshit. He's always very nice, but nothing really ever comes from it. Yeah, I think you're starting to get the point there. Again, you're almost getting there. Almost getting it, Donnie.
Well, didn't another one of his ministers fall out of a window recently?
Yep. Zelensky keeps on saying, "Yeah, we'll sign that critical minerals deal. Yeah, we'll talk about that ceasefire. Yeah, we'll show up at that meeting." Zelensky's showing up for all the stuff that Donald Trump wants him to show up for, and Putin isn't. At some point, maybe Donald will think that Volodymyr is actually his friend because he keeps on showing up to the parties that Trump is throwing.
Yeah.
So Volodymyr Zelensky, I think he's figured it out that because Putin will never say yes, he can just say yes to everything that Trump proposes because it will never come to pass anyway.
It's never going to happen.
Because Putin won't let it. Oh my God. Jeez. So yeah, listen, I don't know what the solution here is. Of course, 35% tariffs and whatnot. A lot of people are saying, it'll be devastating. It's pretty much like a trade embargo and all that kind of stuff. And, perhaps that's true. Again, this is not my domain. But there's a whole part of me that's sort of like, you know what? Okay, fine. We just fast forward on the accelerator. We, divert trade. We realize, we just accept that it's going to be like this until the midterms. And at some point, he's going to do it anyway. So just let him. I guess, yes, we'll take the hit. Yes, we will suffer for a bit, but it seems that Canadians are willing to take a certain amount of pain. I don't know if they're willing to take this much amount of pain, but they're willing to take some. But since the United States and the Americans will be paying those tariffs eventually, once they fully start to hit and work their way through the system, it might be tough for Trump if the calls start coming from inside the House. So this might be a situation. It might be a situation in which we just have to grin and bear it. Now, the other thing, just as possible, could be that, well, hey, there's a few more Taco Tuesdays in the month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this might be an attempt, as the Chinese proverb goes, sometimes you've got to kill the chicken to scare the monkey.
I've
Kill.
never heard that one before, but sure. Yeah.
Well, a couple times I mistakenly said you have to choke the chicken to scare the monkey on the show.
Different
I
meaning.
got it wrong. But
Very
sometimes
different meaning.
you have to kill the chicken to scare the monkey. So we're the chicken, right? Again, the whole theory is like this. Oh my God, if he's willing to do that to lovely Canada, who's their friend, what's he going to do to us? Ah, we should fall in line. And that hasn't really been working for him, right? So he might do this, think it's a pressure tactic to, get all those other countries in the world that didn't call him for his 90 deals in 90 days to finally pick up the phone and start kissing his butt because, well, he didn't get enough action on that between July 6th and whenever he pushed those
Yeah.
dates twice back. And he's really trying to make it happen this time. Um, but if people are not biting, what happens? We still have the date of the 21st. So, yes, we could react and lose our minds, but we can just turn around and say, well, you know what? We said, yeah, exactly. We have a deadline, as Kitlan right here says, we have a deadline for a trade deal at July 21st. And he said that what we will do will depend on the situation of the United States. Well,
Mhm.
Donald Trump right now is acting like there is no good faith deal to be had because we're trying to negotiate this comprehensive overall sort of deal, and he's
Mhm.
using about 200 tariffs on pharmaceuticals and another 50% on copper, now another 35% on us. It's really looking that there's no deal, or that there's something that Trump really, 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 really wants in those negotiations about which Mark Carney is saying nothing, and he's not getting it. Supply management, perhaps, and
Well,
therefore he's pulling out all these stops.
dropping the digital services tax was something I didn't like and didn't care for because it looks like we're acquiescing to Trump. But as a few people pointed out, is you got to give Trump what he feels like is a win. He feels like he won something. When the amount of revenue generated by that tax was minuscule when it comes to the grand scheme of things. Is it a lot of money to you and I? Oh yeah. Oh
Hmm.
yeah. But for budget for the country and for revenue for the country, no. And it would be swallowed up in about a day, I'm told.
Yep.
But I didn't like the optics of it.
Yes.
And
Understandably. My issue with it is that we get to determine our own tax policy. Thank you
right.
very much. But again, as we mentioned, if this CPP EU combination happens and Europe still wants its digital service taxes, I mean, the UK kept it in its alleged deal. That, if we're just coming back for it in 2 years with 32 or 38 of our closest friends, fine. There
Yeah.
are certain things, right? I mean, it's quite very possible that Mark Carney says, well, digital service tax wasn't my tax. I didn't bring it in. I'm not particularly attached to it. We know this really irritates him. So let's leave this thing on the table for as long as possible because he is going to throw a tantrum at some point to try to get something because that's just what Trump does. So let's leave that on the table for as long as possible. Let's resist a little bit. He'll get mad. So throw him a bone. And then, maybe that will tide us through to the 21st. Well, unfortunately, it didn't tide us through to the
No.
21st because he got mad again. But, you know, this tactic, if nobody jumps, and then people start getting into his ear between now and the 21st, it's like, if you really go ahead with that 35, we are all doomed. This It could be just as likely, just keep calm and carny on and expect to flip back at some point. Because Trump will probably end up munching on his own taco.
Mm.
Anyway,
Well, remember, he's all about Project 2025 that he says he's not all about.
yeah.
Right? I mean, look at this. Overall progress, he's at 45%, 313 total, 108 done, 63 in progress. USAID killed. Commodity Futures Trading Commission, 100% achieved. Like this is, I'll put this in the chat if anybody wants to go over it, but it just gives you an idea of how inept and corrupt this man is.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it. Well, then why are you enacting every single aspect of it?
I know.
It wasn't me. I didn't do it. But you're enacting every single aspect of it. How could you do that if you didn't know anything about it?
Yeah.
Oh, is it because you're a liar?
kept playing with 3D. I think Carney struck down that tax because he personally didn't agree with it. That's quite possible, but he knew
Mhm.
there wasn't going to be much political capital loss because there was a lot of demand within the country itself for him to not pursue it as well, right? So, but it's an entirely different piece than from supply management, right? Which he went out of his way to say was a red line. So, I have a feeling, but if there's anything that Trump is really, they're pushing really hard on supply management, and we're not budging, and that this might be what this is about here. Now, the other possibility, and again, I don't know. This is pure speculation on my part. Again, Mark Carney does understand the bond market very well. And who knows? Maybe there's a move we might be able to make there that might throw a little fear of God into him between now
Maybe, yeah.
as well. So you never know. You never know. Because if we're assuming that Mark Carney understands markets better than Donald Trump does, and the people around him do, um, we might have a couple of extra aces up our sleeve that, because we're being tight-lipped, we're not talking publicly about. We'll see. But for now, listen, 35%, clearly not ideal, clearly a threat. Um, but at some point, I think it was David Moscrop said it on Twitter. At some point, the guy who was elected to deal with Trump might have to deal with Trump. So let's wait and see a little bit. It's really weird because in the first ones when he was slapping the tariffs, it's, oh my God, I can't believe this guy. And now it's like, yeah, okay, sure. Another tariff, another Tuesday, another Thursday, another tariff. Yeah, great. So his record for follow through isn't all that great, but he is causing some damage as well. Right, we have to look at our steel and aluminum industry. We're looking at our auto industry. He is causing some damage. This is not without consequence. The problem is that he just he constantly wants the ground underneath our feet to not be stable,
Constantly.
right? And again, there's 14 months yet of this until midterms. There's 14 more months of this until. Oh my
14
God,
long
give me
months.
strength.
Long months.
Oh, give me strength. Calgon, take me away. Okay. Moving on from this guy. The NDP.
Just before we get to that,
Oh,
I
yes.
gotta go.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
That's true.
I have a 9:30 appointment, so I have to get ready for that, get Lola out and walked, and then it's a 20-minute walk to my appointment. So I got to go sign some contracts today, and my start day has been pushed back a week, so I don't start till the 21st now,
Okay.
which I'm fine with because that gives me next week to prep and figure out schedules and timing to get where I need to be. So yeah, I'm okay with it. Give me another week to get everything set up and ready to go, which is fine, by me. But yeah, I got to go sign a contract to be starting my new job very, very soon. So a week from Monday, I will be starting. So I am going to take my leave. I have promised a couple of people that I would get some grizzly growls done this week and up and posted, and I'm endeavoring to do that today. I'm endeavoring to do that today. Whether or not I see that endeavor through is another thing altogether, but I will do my best to try and make that happen. I do have a number of things to get to today as well, but until such time as I see you again, you all take care. Thanks for being here. We love and appreciate you. And don't forget to hit the like button, the share button, and get as many people to subscribe because we really do need that. Thanks again. See
All
ya.
right. See ya. See you, my friend. Yes. If you smash with our buttons now, you don't have to remember to do it before you leave, as Kit Elaine would like to say. All right. Moving on to the NDP. It seems that they are talking leadership all of a sudden. There's been some back and forth in the press about it a little bit. Interim leader Don Davies trying to make the point. I think some point last week that they need to get to this leadership race quickly. Again, the typical thing because we're in a minority parliament and it could fall at any time, so we need to have a leader. Um, not sure how serious that is in the sense that the Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet has been pretty clear that he is not going to do anything to upend the government until at least the midterms, because to him, that's by when Trump actually needs a deal with Canada um, of some type. Before he goes into the midterms, he'll need a big win. And, you know, there might be some advantage to us in his thinking, dragging our feet until then, or nothing will be firm until then. So there's no point. And then we'll see. Of course, Blanchet is also taking the tack. We'll see for sure if Mark Carney walks his talk on supply management, because if it doesn't, and then we provoke an election, then maybe we'll get some of those seats that we lost back. Right. That's the thinking over there. So, given that it's pretty certain, unless something extraordinary happens, that the Bloc will not do anything to take down the government before midterms, the NDP does have a little bit of runway. It doesn't have to be super fast, the way that interim leader Don Davies was alleging that it needed to be. So, it seems that they've come to some type of happy medium, because they will have the race will start sometime between September 1st and September 8th, and then will end sometime between March 22nd and March 29th, which will make it about a 7th-month race. And that time, March 22nd to 29th, will coincide with the NDP National Convention that is already scheduled to be held in Winnipeg. It seems that the entrance fee for the candidates will be set at $100,000, which seems like a lot for certain people, especially when you're considering the NDP. But we'll get into that. Andrew Thompson had some interesting comments about that. But according to Darren Major and David Thurton of CBC News here, um, let's see what it is. It says the party's federal council met on Thursday to hammer out some of the rules to govern the leadership contest, which will include the $100,000 entry fee, as I mentioned. The full guidelines for the race have yet to be finalized and will need to be discussed at yet another meeting. Former BC NDP MP and House Leader Libby Davies, there's a name I haven't heard in a long time, I hope she's doing well, is pleased that the party is not rushing to elect a new leader. In an op-ed in the Toronto Star, Davies noted that a lengthy race levels the playing field, allowing grassroots candidates to rise to the forefront alongside more well-established names. But Davies has issues with the entrance fee. Quote, "That's a steep crawl. It will definitely limit the field," Davies said. "They will obviously have to have the ability to raise that kind of money in a very short period of time." The last time the New Democrats held a leadership race, the entrance fee was $30,000, and the race lasted for more than a year. Davies had hoped to see a fee of around $50,000 to $75,000. The new leader will face the tough task of rebuilding the party in the wake of its worst electoral showing ever. Right? They only came out of the last election with 7 seats, and they lost incumbents in traditional strongholds such as Hamilton and Windsor. Of course, the former leader, Jagmeet Singh, announced his resignation on election night after he had failed to win his own seat. And that left the party without party status, which means it loses certain perks that include being guaranteed a question in the daily question period, participation in committees, and funding for the leader's office and research bureau. Avi Lewis, who's a former federal NDP candidate who says he's seriously considering a run for the leadership, welcomed the federal council taking the time to deliberate and debate the leadership contest rules instead of rubber stamping them. Lewis called it a victory for internal democracy in a party that he and others have said has been run by backroom political strategists. Quote, "This is great news," Lewis said. "This is a real turning point where we can start coming together." But Lewis said he will wait until he sees the final rules before deciding whether to launch a campaign. Lewis is a former host on Al Jazeera and CBC. His father, Stephen Lewis, led the Ontario New Democratic Party, and his grandfather, David Lewis, helped found the federal NDP in 1961. So it's a little bit, if one could say, NDP royalty there. The NDP has also been faced with internal challenges since the election. Veteran MP Don Davies was selected by the party's federal council in May to serve as interim leader, but a trio of MPs, all of them visible minorities, wrote a letter to the council blasting the selection process, saying it failed to uphold democratic and transparent principles. Then, last week, a group of NDP organizers and former MPs branding themselves as Reclaim Canada's NDP called on supporters to redirect donations from the Central Party to local riding associations. This is a big deal because I think it was in uh, not this election, but 2 elections ago, the NDP let me put it this way. Each electoral district association, if it gets more than a certain percent of the vote, I think it's 15% of the vote, has a portion of their election expenses refunded through Elections Canada. And normally that money goes back to the riding associations, but the NDP had incurred a debt to run in that election, and they decided that they were going to keep all that money for the central office to help clear off the debt. And a lot of people now are saying that the reason that they've lost so many MPs, particularly some good incumbents, is because all that money that should have gone to the Electoral District Association to make sure that they could do the grassroots work at the local level to ensure that those MPs got reelected was not there, and that's what cost them. So there's a group within the NDP that wants that money from this current election, and there's not a lot of seats where the NDP got 15% of the vote, to go back to the ridings and not back to the central campaign to cover the debt. The NDP always incurs debt because of all the parties. I think they're the only ones that actually own their headquarters, their head office. So they usually borrow against the property that they own to run their election campaigns and then pay back that amount with fundraising over the next 3 or 4 years. But if there's going to be an election, let's say it's a minority parliament and the parliament falls in 2 years, that doesn't give them enough time, right? And now that they have to pay more in order to be able to operate because they do not get these perks because they're not party status and because they're not getting a lot of their election expenses refunded because they didn't get 15% on a lot of seats. You can see how one problem stacks on another, makes climbing back up that hill a little harder. So this group within the NDP, Reclaim Canada's NDP, wants those donations, was calling on supporters to redirect donations from Central Party to local riding associations. So they want NDP voters not to make a donation to the Central Party, but to the ridings specifically. Quote, "This election, Canadians showed that the NDP feels out of reach as a viable political option," the group said in a press release. The group said that by directly funding riding associations, quote, "progressive community organizers can access the resources required to meaningfully and equitably rebuild the NDP without being bureaucratically tangled with the party's management. The party could face financial difficulty following the spring campaign. Hundreds of NDP candidates failed to reach the 10% vote threshold." Okay, so it's 10, sorry, not 15. "That would have qualified them for campaign expense rebates. The party announced earlier this week that it would be launching a renewal process led by lawyer and former candidate Emily Taman, who happens to be a lawyer. And this is the NDP doing things the right way, as opposed to the Conservatives, who have the party leader calling everybody and saying, "How did I do during the last election?" They're actually getting somebody that's not in the upper management of the party and that has some type of related background to do this type of work, to actually do all the calling, gather the data, and then write up the report. The party says the review will include consultations with party members, staff, riding associations, and volunteers. So you have the overall beginning of the terms of that, and of course, of the race. And of course, the big issue here, the sticking point, as brought up by Libby Davies, seems to be the actual entry fee for this. And Andrew Thompson, who was the um, finance minister for the Saskatchewan NDP and was a candidate at one point um, as a potential finance minister for Canada if the NDP would have won a federal election. Very respected within the party. Had some comments to make about that, and I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm stretching. I am, because my page with the notes that has the timestamps just vanished from my screen, so I have to bring it up again. But yes, he had some thoughts about the entry fee and why it might not be a bad idea. And the reason I want to present his comments to you is that normally when you get into these types of situations, you get a very pro-partisan line that likes to uh, focus on the positive while not talking as much about um, the less shiny parts. And in this case, Andrew Thompson is actually keeping it rather real. So I have two segments for you here, Kids and Cubs, and I was impressed by the pundit not going fully partisan pundit, but actually keeping it real. He seems to actually have the genuine best interest of the party at heart.
What do you make of this move? There was a little bit of push and pull inside the party. Some wanted to get it over with, like before Christmas, to get a new leader in the minority parliament. Others wanted to wait. It seems like that wing got what they wanted. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think this recognizes that there's a lot of work ahead of a new leader, and that the party has to spend a lot of time getting its act together before that. Certainly the longer time frame will allow a broader field, I think. It'll allow a deeper set of candidates who may be wanting to take a little bit of time to get organized. Certainly the $100,000 fee is, is going to cause some people to be upset, but frankly, a big part of this leader's job is going to have to be getting the party's finances in order and being able to demonstrate that they can organize on the ground. So this is probably a good compromise in terms of what is needed between those who are obviously anxious to get out the gate and those who realize that there's going to be a lot of work to be done to actually get the party in order to come back.
Yeah, Stevie, I mean, the timeline.
So again, pretty much, just keeping it very real. There is, there could be a lot of contenders for this, and $100,000 would definitely show that there's a leader that's capable of doing the fundraising work that the party would require, because it does have a rather steep hill to climb. Now, later on in the discussion, he is talking about some of the challenges that the NDP might be facing here, because this is not a natural or normal situation for this party to be in. So over here, and let's see what he has to say about that.
So the party has a couple of very significant issues facing, and not the least of which is the fact that the number of people who currently think that they could vote in a Democrat is at a historic low. If you go back to even 5 years ago, almost half the population in the country could see themselves voting NDP. Doesn't mean they were going to, but saw that as an option. Today it's fewer than 1 in 3. And I think that really is a very significant issue to wonder why has that happened. Setting aside the fact that, when Jack Layton was a leader in 2011, the NDP got 4.5 million votes. This last election, they got 1.5 million votes. That's 3 million Canadians that turned away from the NDP for some reason over that time period. Now you can say, oh, some of that's Tom Mulcair, but Tom Mulcair was still getting 3.5 million votes. So it was, something has happened that has moved the NDP to the margins of political debate. And they're going to have to figure out how to get back into the mainstream, not just into the left lane, but actually into the mainstream of issues that Canadians care about. And I think one of the challenges for the NDP, and this is certainly evident in that last few years, is that they've changed the entry point for what it means to be a New Democrat. New Democrats have always cared about the marginalized. They have always worked to bring forward equality, to deal with the racialized. They have always tried to deal with equity issues. Part of what happened, it seems, is in that last couple of years, that became not one of the issues that is a litmus test in terms of you caring about it, but you having to identify as such. You had to identify as marginalized to be able to support the NDP. You had to identify as being downtrodden to support the NDP. And that's not where most Canadians are. The vast majority of Canadians are middle class. They identify as middle class, they have middle class aspirations, and they want to be treated in that way, not returned in terms of some kind of language that says the only way you can be saved is through a 1970s social program or some kind of social welfare. So this is a fundamental change. This is going to be a huge debate within the NDP over the next several months between those who want to see a return to the mainstream of politics and those who are quite happy with, frankly, if they could get 25 seats back in a permanent minority government, would feel like that's success.
So There you go. You have the various challenges that the NDP is facing. It seems that a lower. Oh, sorry, I have no idea why this is another video started all on its own. um, the pool of accessible voters is much smaller now than it was. Uh, who is the NDP for? Really, is another thing. Um, how much are domestic issues going to be at the forefront of what the NDP is campaigning on versus international issues? Um, the affordability issue, the workers issue, how much time are they going to put on that versus um, uh, I don't want to say versus social justice issues, uh, but bread and butter worker issues. Um, the whole, um, if you wanted to be populist on an issue of class warfare, for example, which is a terrain that the NDP is very solid on, usually. Um, is that there? What type of face are they going to try to present to the public? I saw some other analysis talking about, Jagmeet Singh was trying to present the face as being the cool and hip kind of guy, but at the time, Trudeau was already the cool and hip guy, so they were trying to, you know, compete on that front, and ultimately, Jagmeet Singh did not win in that battle. Um, so will the party need to have be more professionalized in the way that it presents itself? Do we need to go back to certain topics, certain issues on which the NDP is known to be solid? They're known to be solid on health. They're known to be solid on workers' rights. They're you know anything on affordability, uh, but it has to be a real world type of strategy, right? If we're talking about lowering the price of groceries, as Mr. Grizzly says, unless we're nationalizing the grocery stores, that's probably not going to happen. And there's very little power that we have on that. So, um, you know, what type of promises are they making on that? If they're still making promises like we need to have like some like code of behavior, or we need to take some action to bring down the price of groceries, but not actually um, uh, all the words around it about how we achieve that are more aspirational than a tactical example. That won't be there. So there is room for the NDP in the sense that Prime Minister Mark Carney is governing very much like a progressive conservative. The party, the Liberal Party, has taken a couple of steps relatively to the right from where it was under Trudeau, without being, it's probably more a center-right party at the moment than center-left, which vacates a lot of terrain for the NDP to be able to walk in and occupy, especially as U.S. actions will start to hit and bite in Canada, and there will be workers' issues with regard to that. There will be a stability of income issues, if not affordability specifically. So there's plenty of terrain, but it has to come from somebody that Canadians will view as serious and perhaps consequential. And it will have to be meaningful statements, not these aspirational boilerplate statements. There will need to be some tactical and strategic elements to the plans as put out, because Mark Carney is putting that out. And it seems that Canadians seem to like that. Don't just tell me what you're going to do, but tell me how you're going to do it. But there is a lane. However, again, the financial issues, they're stacking up, and someone who is going to be able to be compelling enough to get organizations and groups to open up their wallets is going to matter. And there is that issue between the central party administration and the riding associations and how they are funded that will need to be resolved. So the next NDP leader will not only have to have some good fundraising skills, but some particularly good diplomacy skills. So yes, $100,000 is a lot for a party like the NDP, for a party that likes to be grassroots and present itself as such. Um, but it could be that the particular job requirements for the next leader of the NDP specifically could require someone to demonstrate those abilities as they are running for the leadership. And the race rules, if they are well designed, might be designed with that in mind. Don't just be charismatic and don't just have a platform, but show us uh, as you are competing to get the job that you will actually be able to do this job as it needs to be done in this current and precise moment. So if the rules are written in such a way that you're testing the candidates for what it is that they actually will be needing to do once they become leader, you probably lose out, yes, on a certain number of candidates because you set some barriers that are high, but you probably also create the winning conditions to have a better field of candidates that actually have the specific qualifications for what the party needs, both internally and externally, at this precise time. But these are decisions that will cause a lot of discussion and some consternation within the party faithful and longtime supporters of the party and people that just believe in the overall mission. And I'm going to sort of flip a little bit what Mr. Grizzly says when he talks about progressive conservatives, that we need a strong progressive conservative party in Canada. I also believe, and I think Mr. Grizzly would agree here, that we also need a strong, more social democratic option. Like this, a strong citizens or workers party, a labor-based party or something. That is needed. Canada only benefits from having that voice there. But again, as Andrew Thompson was mentioning, is the NDP identity-wise want to be a party that says, you know what, we're good with 25, 30 seats in this seeming environment of continuous minority parliaments, that are not that far away from majorities? Or do we actually want to be a viable contender as a government in waiting? When you're moving from 7 seats, non-official party status, to wherever you want to go, hoping that the only way forward is up, the ambition, even though in politics you're supposed to compete to win, like this, and that's the general thinking, the ambition might need to be smaller and more realistic at this point, because when the Liberals went from third place to a big majority under Trudeau with his first win, that was the first time, probably the first time in Canadian history that had ever happened. It's not a typical thing. So it's not a thing that the NDP should be looking to and says, well, that happened once for the Liberals, it could happen for us too. That's probably not on the menu at this particular time. So, yeah. But when you make that decision to have a more realistic ambition, and the ambition is not to win or to form government, then you get the typical questions that you could expect. Then why are you even in this if you don't want to win it? But we've all rolled our eyes many times when we've seen the NDP being third or fourth in polls and behind by a solid 12 or 13%, and the NDP leader comes on the TV and says, we're running to form government, a majority government. And then you see how people's eyes roll and glaze over because they know it's not serious. It's the thing you need to say to avoid all those other questions. But maybe it's better to just have a substantive, meaningful answer to those lazy questions and have a more realistic goal. Listen, we want to be government in waiting, but it's not going to happen in just one term. It's probably going to happen over 2 or 3 elections. So we need to rebuild, and then we need to show that we can actually do the job, and then we need to gain the confidence like this. So it's going to be a 2 or 3 step process, but we're committed to it. And if you stick with us, we'll get there. It's not as satisfying as, hey, we're in it to win it. But it might be, you know what? I can get on board with that because this seems like a realistic and credible plan. So there are trade-offs in your party positioning. But if the NDP were to do that, it would be for Canada and adversarial sort of Westminster politics, zigging when people would expect one to zag, to actually say, no, we're not looking to form government next time around. But this is what we're looking to do here, given the current context. You can sell that message. Because if you're willing to accept being bombarded a lot, especially initially, with a lot of lazy questions until you manage to impose and set that narrative. Like, you need to stop asking those questions. We need to move beyond those because we've got other things to talk about. So it will be interesting to see what happens to the NDP. But this will probably be the most interesting federal NDP leadership race in quite a long time because it is a free-for-all. Anybody, so long as you can raise 100,000, but I mean, it's a free-for-all. The prize doesn't seem to be that shiny. And anybody who's going to be taking that job would be essentially be trying to tell people that you're not hiring me as leader for just one election cycle here. It's going to be 2 or 3 if we're rebuilding. So somebody that can come in with an actual credible plan like this and show some strategic and tactical ability in this case might be the person that has the early leg up in the race. All right. Other topics that we have for you today. This is a little bit of a potpourri of things that we've got going on. Remember a couple of days ago when we mentioned that Doug Ford had pretty much swallowed himself whole, and with regard to the alleged apology he making some very, very, very racist and unflattering and unkind comments about Indigenous people coming to him hat in hand, and then later on having his environment minister, Todd McCarthy, co-write a letter with the Alberta Environment Minister, Rebecca Schultz, seeming to indicate that it might not be a great priority for the federal government to table laws ensuring that there would be potable drinking water on reserve and access to fresh waterways on reserve, because that would destroy competitiveness. Well, it seems that there's a reaction to that.
Some Ontario First Nations have been without clean drinking water for decades, so some chiefs couldn't believe that the province's environment minister suggested that the federal government not go ahead with a bill that aims to fix that. The Grand Council chief of the Anishinaabe Nation, who recently accepted an apology from Premier Doug Ford over his choice of words, says the minister has done real damage to the relationship between the province and First Nations, and that the Premier should fire Todd McCarthy as Environment Minister. It all goes back to a letter McCarthy and his counterpart in Alberta sent to the federal Environment Minister at the end of June. They ask her to move away from policies and legislation that undermine competitiveness and delay project development. Included in their examples, Bill C-61, dealing with water on First Nations lands. Grand Council Chief Linda DeBossigi says in a statement McCarthy is running rogue, and that the 39 First Nations she represents are shocked at the opposition to Bill C-61. She says we call upon Ontario and Alberta to end this nonsense. The Grand Chief, representing dozens more First Nations, has also responded. Alvin Fiddler from the Anishinaabe-Aski Nation saying Ontario has no business getting involved in Bill C-61. And this letter represents a new low by the Ford government. That message echoed by the NDP leader.
The Minister of Environment has the gall to go in and ask them to suspend any actions to solve that problem. It is unforgivable. It is outrageous.
The Premier's office has responded in a statement saying that Ontario has always supported the right to clean drinking water for all First Nations communities. It also says the intent of the letter was to impress upon the federal government the need for regulations that support economic growth. Lorenda Radicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
Sure thing. So, unsurprising that the Chiefs of Ontario would have issue with that. So yeah, clearly they were going to respond, and they have. An update for you with regard to Manitoba wildfires. Premier Wab Kinew of Manitoba has declared a second province-wide state of emergency because of raging wildfires, calling on the military to help once again with thousands of evacuations in some of the more remote regions. And this is brought to us by Timur Durrani of the Globe and Mail here. The province, which was under a state of emergency until late last month, announced another declaration on Thursday with nearly 100 fires burning in Manitoba. Mostly in the north, the federal government is sending the Canadian Armed Forces to fly residents from several communities towards safer areas. Manitoba's wildfire service has recorded 252 fires this year, well above the average of 194 for this time. And across the country, several provinces have experienced an early and aggressive start to the wildfire season. Both Manitoba and Saskatchewan declared simultaneous states of emergency earlier in the season, as dozens of large fires also spread in northwestern Ontario, Alberta, and British Columbia. In mid-May, before the summer officially started, 2 people were killed because of a large blaze near Lac du Bonnet in Manitoba's cottage country, where dozens of properties were destroyed. This week, the Manitoba town of Snow Lake issued a mandatory evacuation order with its 1,000 residents told to stay with friends or family at a shelter nearly 600 kilometers away in Winnipeg. In Manitoba's northeastern region, the flying community of more than 3,000 people in the Garden Hill First Nation is also being threatened by wildfire. The military began to airlift residents early Thursday before the province's emergency declaration. The majority of evacuees will be temporarily housed in Winnipeg, where hotel rooms are being made available, and a large soccer field has been converted into a reception center. Should hotels not be available, congregate shelters are being readied in the city. As of last week, around 1,400 people from northern Manitoba also remained more than 2,000 kilometers away in Niagara Falls, Ontario, where they have been since June, as the province struggled to find lodgings for them after they were forced to flee fires. More than 510 wildfires are burning in Canada, with at least 140 of those deemed out of control as of early Thursday. Researchers from Environment and Climate Change Canada have warned that dryness, little precipitation, and warmer than normal temperatures are expected to ripen conditions for more wildfires later this summer. And the thing here, kits and cubs, is that, how would I put it? Things are getting able to make sure that people are housed, because some of the people who were affected by the first set of evacuations, as I mentioned in the article, are still away. So here we have a little bit of a clip here from Premier Wab Kinew talking about the situation. And I believe that we will also have a second clip a little later on this. But let's listen to what he has to say.
Time ago.
The primary reason that we have called this latest state of emergency is because we need access to more facilities to be able to shelter this large number of Manitobans who are being forced to flee their homes due to wildfires. In the first round of the wildfire season, of course, you know that we stood up the Leela facility. That has been stood up again recently, and there were people staying there last night. We expect many, many more to be staying there tonight. City of Winnipeg, another excellent partner, has stepped up with the Billy Mosienko Arena. And very shortly, under the emergency powers, we will be moving forward with an order so that we have access to the RBC Convention Center in downtown Winnipeg.
So, as you can see, the government is trying to mobilize all the resources as can in order to ensure that there are places for people to live and to rest as this is going on. Um, but being able to house people and lodge people is meeting with a little bit of a crunch. Um, right here, kits and cubs. If I can get the spinning wheel of a eternal pausing to stop. There we go. We have a bit of a map here of Manitoba where there are all these fires. It's pretty much all over the place. And I'm guessing that the red ones are the ones that are particularly considered out of control or dangerous here on this map. So we have a little bit more here of Wab Canoe explaining some of the realities of what evacuation orders and the attempt to create more lodging will mean for people who need to get away. And of course, we have to remember that I think at the peak, there were 22,000 people that had been ordered evacuated at one point in the first go round. Some of those people are still away. And one of the threatened communities up in north is Thompson, Manitoba, that has about 12,000 people. Right now, they're not evacuating, but they do have an order to be vigilant and to be ready to have their bags packed and ready to go. And if that would happen, that would put an incredible crunch because everything is already at overcapacity and they're already housing people out of province.
The reality is that people who evacuate in Manitoba now will be heading to congregate shelters for the most part. We have some number of hotel rooms to deal with elders, to deal with people with really high medical needs that need to stay in hotel, but the vast majority of folks are going to be going to congregate settings.
So the Premier keeping it very real there. Again, if you're in the region, please make sure that you are prepared to leave, that you have a bag packed, that you have water, that you have food for a couple of days, that you have all your important documents, your medicines, all of that with you, so that when you get the order, you are ready to go at a moment's notice and ready to move quickly so as to not put other residents and first responders at further and unnecessary risk. But yes, if you are affected by an evacuation that is to come, you should expect that you will be in moving to a congregate setting if you do not have friends or family or another place to go, because there are no longer much hotel space available so that people can still be able to live as single family units during this time. The demand is for space is getting particularly is becoming an issue, a serious issue when it comes to this. Let's see, another update do we have for you here? Oh yes. Yesterday we were talking to you about an article that Brian Lilly had written and we showed you a little video as well about what was happening with Pierre at Stampede, and that he wasn't getting a particularly warm or enthusiastic reception as people would expect that a conservative would get in Alberta. And you will remember that I made the point yesterday that Brian Lilly seemed to have spent a lot of time of that, I think it was a 3-minute and 42-second video, making the point that, just because I'm saying it, don't think I've gone all liberal on you. It's like, this is really what I'm hearing on the ground. Well, it seems that, there's a lot of people that hear what to say. And we got here, one person, you're being accused of bias, wanting Ford in Poilievre's position. Ford is a traitor to conservative voters and will never head the federal CPC. Brian, who's claiming this? I've known Poilievre far longer than Ford. This is simply reporting what is happening in Calgary, not Toronto. I'm just reporting, man. I'm not part of some plot or some conspiracy to replace Pierre with Ford. Another one. Please separate your private musings and opinions from your journalism. I'm an opinion writer. I write about what I see and hear, including conversations that you're not privy to. Same guy. Understood. I still react negatively to clickbait, which I took your post as based on the article. This is the anything I don't like is fake news people, right? Why on earth would you even consider Doug Ford to be even remotely close to Pierre's level as to take the CPC leadership? That guy's further left than red conservative Aaron O'Toole. So you didn't read the piece then? I did read the piece. I read everything you put out. You're the one columnist in this crazy country I regard as intelligent and well-scrupled enough to make sense of the insanity. Oh, poor guy. Boy, you are a terrible judge of character. But this one, sorry, mate, I just can't agree on this one. Let's just move on, okay? Don't write about things I don't like to read about, no matter how true they are. No, I don't like that. No, just don't do that, because I will no longer consider you intelligent and well-scrupled if you write things I don't want to read. There's a lot of people that need to learn that the world is not Burger King and you just can't have it your way. Sometimes the burger is going to come with pickles, whether you want them or not. Now, you could rage at the restaurant for putting pickles on it, or you could just STFU and just remove the pickles from the burger yourself and then eat it without having to make a big stinking announcement or a scene. Just saying, you do have the option of removing the pickles from the burger. Another one. That's bullshit. Brian Lilly. Yeah, okay. I didn't talk to anyone of importance at Stampede and made it all up. Or I did, and I even spoke to Pierre Poilievre about all of it, but you don't like what I'm saying. So Brian knew that this storm would come because he dared to write something that was not flattering about dear leader. He knew it was coming. And now he's getting it. And well, you love to see it, don't you? I'm sorry. I can't feel sorry for this guy. I can't feel sorry for this guy. But you know what? I will give him a quarter of a cookie for at least finally writing it. But I also believe that if Brian Lilly and John Iveson are writing about it, it's because it has to be so damn loud that they really have no choice. Because otherwise, they probably wouldn't. Because it is in their vested interest to maintain the charade unless they have determined that themselves that Pierre will not make it through the leadership review in January and are starting to daintily step off the bandwagon so that they can be ready to affix themselves to another brand new fresh host at some point. That would be my take. But we'll see. Maybe not. Maybe they've just seen the light. Yeah, right. Speaking of Pierre, really, really interesting move on his part. He was, we mentioned yesterday, again, that, Pierre was having some trouble and how would I put it? That he had spent a whole lot of money, and then we trying to win a silver medal. He needed a lot of help in order to get there. And then we showed you some clips of Bonnie Critchley on Real Talk with Ryan Jesperson, and she was mentioning, what presence in the writing. And Pierre Poilievre validated Bonnie Critchley yesterday on that front by campaigning for his seat, allegedly, in Battle River Crowfoot from Vancouver. I'm not sure what he was. Well, I mean, we know what he was doing there? He was at a construction company, Orion Construction, which that's in the lower mainland of British Columbia, and it would seem that the owner of Orion Construction is a very loyal and faithful donor to the Conservative Party of Canada. But what I'm not understanding is that why is he, Pierre, there? I understand he is the leader of the party, but there is an interim leader of the opposition, and the interim leader of the opposition could have made this trip to British Columbia to meet workers. And again, Pierre is in a blue vest, so he's cosplaying again. He just loves his little costumes, doesn't he? And but yeah, Andrew Scheer could have been there meeting the donor, shaking the hand, taking the pictures, while Pierre would have been in Battle River, Crowfoot, knocking on the doors. But clearly, there's only room for one star in Pierre's sky, and he learned nothing from getting booted in Carleton. So, yeah, he's just allowing Damien Carrick and Damien Carrick's team of campaigners do the campaigning for him while he goes to fundraisers and photo ops. Again, not really sending the message to the people of Battle River Crowfoot that he really wants to earn their vote here. But hey, it's his party, and he can cry if he wants to. Just seems to me to be a really odd thing to be doing. Let's see, how much time do we have left here? Do I have time for one more thing? Yes, one tiny little more thing. Which is not an update here, but this is a new bit since we talked about Doug Ford a little bit. There are two things going on. One, it seems that with regard to childcare, Ontario is not doing what it needs to do in order to make sure that we reach the $10 a day childcare goal by 2026. Not doing it what's needed. And interesting here, there's 6 provinces and territories that currently meet the federal government's $10 a day childcare target, which is good, but there are certain of them that do not. And this is under the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, and they published a report on Wednesday. They say here, it's almost certain that even after the 2026 deadline passes, many parents in 5 provinces will be paying more than $10 a day for childcare. That being said, the fee drops for parents so far have been staggering in Ontario, Alberta, and Nunavut, as these jurisdictions had let fees get far too high before the federal program. Jennifer Cozels, I don't know how to pronounce this name, spokesperson for Families Minister Patty Haidu, pointed to what she called a historic $27 billion federal investment to help provinces and territories introduce $10 a day childcare, adding half of them have achieved the goal and others have reduced fees by 50%. Quote, over 900,000 children now have access to affordable, high-quality childcare, saving families thousands of dollars. This means less pressure on families and more choices for parents. These are generational investments in families, our economy, and the future of children. We are working with provinces, territories, and Indigenous partners to deliver on that promise and build a more affordable Canada. The report says just 6 provinces and territories, Nunavut, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Quebec, Prince Edward Island, and Newfoundland and Labrador, have met or improved upon the government's target of $10 a day childcare by 2026. But 5 provinces, Ontario, Nova Scotia, Alberta, British Columbia, and New Brunswick, do not yet have plans to reduce fees to $10 a day, the report says. Cities in those provinces have the highest cost for childcare, says the report. Parents in Richmond, BC, for example, are paying median fees of $39 per day for infants, about 4 times the target fee. For some reason, however, media was presenting the article or this bit of news as Ottawa set to miss 2026 deadline for establishing a $10 a day childcare report, which is not actually accurate because it's not Ottawa that's missing the deadline. It's the provinces that are missing the deadline. Ottawa ponied up the money to make it happen. So again, be careful when you're seeing some of these headlines here. The CTV News had had it that way, and CBC had it that way. Ottawa not on track to meet 2026 deadline. But there are other articles also on CTV and the Toronto Star and City News Ontario that actually put the onus on the provinces for not having gotten their rather than the federal government. And that is indeed where the onus should be. In addition to that, it seems that when it comes to Ontario and specifically, as Canada's employment rate soars to a 9-year high, there are nearly 10,000 jobs lost in Ontario in colleges, community colleges specifically, because the government of Ontario, of course, was funding post-secondary education on the back of foreign students to whom they were charging higher fees. And of course, rather than funding it from core government revenues, which you should be doing for post-secondary education, because an educated population is a step to having a healthy, thriving economy, specifically in a knowledge economy that is growing. So for some reason, the government of Ontario has felt that it didn't need to fund colleges properly, and that has resulted in colleges scrambling to close funding gaps and cutting more than 600 programs and thousands of positions. The move on to cap international student visas caused a 48% drop in the first semester enrollment from September 2023 to September 2024 across 23 of Ontario's 24 public colleges. So far, 19 colleges have reported or planned over 8,000 layoffs. The union estimates, that's OPSU, that the total job losses will approach 10,000 once all institution files reports. And OPSU is the Ontario Public Service Employees Union. So upon hearing news, or upon news of this going public, the Doug Ford government immediately rejected all responsibility and blamed it all on the immigration caps. But the immigration caps that the government of Ontario demanded and begged Justin Trudeau to put in place, because there was a housing issue and access to healthcare issue that was embarrassing for the government of Ontario, who was not building houses and making sure that people could actually access healthcare like this, which was a boost in immigration that Doug Ford begged Trudeau to put in place, because at the end of COVID, there wasn't enough people to fill jobs. So again, not enough people to fill jobs during COVID, so Doug Ford was begging for increased immigration, which he got, which then he did not do what he needed to do to make sure that these people were cared for. So there wasn't enough housing, and then there wasn't enough healthcare. So then he blamed Trudeau to cut immigration because that was terrible. And now that he's done that, because Doug Ford had decided not to properly fund post-secondary education institutions, that now there's a hit. And then Doug Ford points to, well, I gave an extra $2 billion on top of, yeah, but you froze tuition rates for the longest time, and then did not compensate universities for the loss of revenue. What do you expect is going to happen? You kept on charging more and more to foreign students, treating them like ATMs. And then there was an immigration cap because there was excess demand on housing and healthcare, which you complained about. So every time you complain about immigration, whether it's too low or it's too high for what Ontario needs in order to develop economically, and you get what you want, but you don't do your part. And all you do is say, well, I threw money at it, so it's the federal government's fault. But just like Trump, I don't accept any responsibility. We get what we voted for. All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us, because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We appreciate it when you do, especially when you share our content with a little word of yours, because as we keep on telling you, you are influencers in your own circle. And we appreciate that you use your good name and your good word to support us. If you would like to not miss an episode because you are on the go, hey, we are portable. take us with you if you can't watch. Thanks to the Ray Girl, you can do that. If you scan that QR code, it brings you to our pod page. And if you are listening, you would go to podpage.com/thetruenortheagerbeaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you get there, if you click on subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth in terms of podcast form, it comes directly to your favorite podcast feed. No fuss, no muss. And if you're listening to us on podcasts and can give us stars and reviews, that helps us with the algorithm. So thank you for your help on that front. If you would like to help us in another way, then please, you want to get down to the True North Eager Beaver Incorporated YouTube page. And there we have 3 buttons for you: like, share, and subscribe. Please give them a little click. That makes us very happy. And that too helps us with the algorithm. Thank you so much for that. And if you would like to help us in yet other ways, well, hey, we would appreciate a contribution to the Emergency Beaver Lodge Hydration Fund. Yes, because you need to do all that you can to keep your beaver moist, because dry beaver is just a terrible thing. So, if you would like to make sure that I remain hydrated and humected, a little bit of change falling into the bottom of that jar does all the good. A cup of hot chocolate for your favorite beaver, or a cup of dark bitter coffee for your favorite grizzly, helps us bring this show to you that you enjoy. And we thank you so much for your generous contribution. And thank you again to Kit Carlos for your enthusiastic expression of encouragement. I know you sent us a little word, so we'll probably thank you twice, because we'll probably be mentioning it again on another show so that we can read what your word out to us was. We just don't happen to have it up on screen. But I wanted to give you props, because Kit Carlos is a regular supporter of ours, and we are very, very grateful for their support. Kits and Cubs, let's see, what else do we have going on for you? Oh, yes. If you want to buy Canadian, please, you can send us a direct donation by email transfer. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address. Your transaction goes from bank to our bank. It's 100% Canadian, and we get 100% of your donation, and no money goes to the USCE Tech Bros. So we thank you for your help in that front. Because democracy is something that you do, Kits and Cubs, mypcalberta.ca. Please, if you live in Alberta, sign the petition. 9,000 signatures are needed in order to be able to revive the Progressive Conservative Party of Alberta and register it with Elections Alberta. Albertans probably need some actual real and reasonable choices, given what the UCP is doing right now. So please, even if you don't intend at the moment to vote for another party, at least make sure that you have some options and sign the petition. Never hurts to have options. Words of wisdom, Kits and Cubs. Oh boy, I'm a little short on wisdom today. So as the weekend is coming, again, just try to, if you have some time for a little rejuvenation, some rest, some relaxation, time with good friends, time with family, time doing an activity that brings you joy. Go get yourself a little happy. All right? You have your queen's permission. Not that you need it. When you need some happy, just go and get it. Make it happen. All right. Kids, it could be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And now, at the count of 3, if I may have a little audience participation from the best damn fam in all of podcasting, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock on 1, 2, 3. Oh, yes. Beautifully done. How can I say no? You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. It seemed to be slow coming back to you. There we go. Just a little bit of Canadians who make us proud. Toronto Blue Jays had a 10-game winning streak. Unfortunately, came to an end with a loss, I believe, to the Chicago White Sox. But they are atop of their division. Now we're only about 93 matches into a 162 game season. But hey, fingers crossed. Maybe there's a potential for World Series run. It has been a long time in Canada. That would be a lot of fun to cheer on. Okay, kids and cubs, have a wonderful weekend. Amour et bisous, and we will see you on Monday. I will miss you until then, though. Bye.